So you can see everything?
Yes.
You can see my slides? Perfect. Yeah, so hello everybody. My name is Matthias, and I'm happy to run you through some thoughts. Actually, I'm working for a vendor, as you know, but it's not a vendor conversation at all. It's really about what we see when we're talking to customers, what thoughts come up, and it doesn't really claim to be complete at any sense. I also received some good ideas from the speeches I listened to, and yeah, the reason why I liked the topic is it has such a positive notion, right? So we are cooking all in that COVID soup, and I mean, most of us can't even hear it. I'm working out of home offices since 20 years, and I'm boiling in my own soup as well. Desperately wanting to go out, sitting in a plane, on a train, talking to customers personally, and I feel completely Zoomanized these days. And therefore, I mean, to me, it feels like there is a light at the end of the tunnel, although we definitely don't know everything around the virus at all and how it's going to evolve. But there's a lot of reason to be optimistic, and that's why I like to talk you through some ideas on what happens once we're going to return. And one thing that when I'm talking to customers, also to very conservative ones sometimes who have very strong compliance regulations and stuff like that, the question to me is, how will out of that Corona area, out of that Corona time, will the workplace change? So is work still something, a place we go to, or is it just something we do, right? I mean, Richard Branson, years ago, he said something like, my work is where my laptop is, right? And I feel the same because I'm used to, but we see that this is not normal to most of us. So it will be very exciting to see how the workplace will change, how the way will change. We're going to cooperate, collaborate, and interact with each other. And I'm sure we're going to run and already do that, I think, thinking about how to redesign not only remote access, but also the tools we are working with, rethink that, redesign it, and re-architect the way we are currently collaborating, we are currently designing our communication processes at all. And as I said, I hope I have some exciting ideas or some interesting thoughts around that. And before I jump a bit deeper into that, we all know that, and we've heard it a lot of time, crisis is chance, change is chance, stuff like this. But I think it's really true. I mean, whenever you had an argumentation with your wife or with your husband, if you do it right and if you do it with respect, you gain something out of it. You're the next level. If you have an escalation with a customer and this stuff simply happens, and you deal with it respectfully, open-headed, and open-hearted sometimes as well, then you gain something. You gain trust. You come to the next level, and I think Corona also kind of put some items on the surface that were boiling on our desk since a while, and I think this is also pretty positive. So there will be a gain in that game, and I think that's something to keep in mind beside all the limitations. Once it hit us, I mean, it hit me by surprise. The COVID was something that was of a far distance, and I think most of us were not really prepared, especially when you're listening to Jean-Christophe in the SME space, even more. And we stood in that together. We complied with that stay-at-home rule, and many processes came to halt. The physical world kind of imploded, and we had to stay home but somehow keep the business running, which is not for everybody possible to doing it out of a remote office. I mean, a stewardess can't work except in a plane, right? So, but I think overall we managed that pretty well. We kind of responded to the changed circumstances, and I really was surprised. We closed one of our largest POs during COVID, and usually it was a large bank, and usually in banks they have a pretty analog process when signing large POs. Hey, from yesterday to tomorrow, they moved to a digital way of signing POs. So this stuff happened also in large organizations and small organizations, and it was, to me, also kind of very positive to see how fast we kind of aligned with these changed circumstances. And that is also something that makes me optimistic for the future. So the new reality forced us to deal with the workplace differently, change physical interaction, and deal with a pretty increased volume of IT demand. Also, something to think about is, I mean, a colleague recently said it to me, the text-based communication increased dramatically because we don't see each other. So we tend to write more. So the water cooling conversations don't happen anymore. We use different tools so that I'm coming to that. So a lot of change that was applied to the way we interact, work, and also lead our private lives. I mean, we do happy hours now with Zoom, right? Drinking gin and tonics together in order to stay close, even virtually. And yeah, obviously we needed to enable a remote working. And what I found interesting here is that 5% roughly of people that are working remotely or are capable of working remotely out of 100, every fifth one. And I think this now moved to almost 100%, so which is a 20-fold increase of traffic through lines out of unsecure home office, over 20 bucks routers and stuff like that. The number of cyber security incidents from remote workers dramatically increases and stuff like this. So if number of laptops, try to buy a webcam these days. It's almost impossible, or twice or even more the price than it was before. But it helped us, obviously, to keep things running. And this is also something I personally discovered. My kids are streaming a video in the living room and are trying to do a Zoom session. And in parallel, my wife is surfing the internet for some other stuff. And we start that services are getting slower. Even very large companies have capacity problems in their systems or on their systems, and stuff is getting slower than it was before. Corporate information is everywhere. So you find a WhatsApp here, a WhatsApp picture here, and that probably replaces the water boiling conversation, right? So we use other tools, and there's a saying that users fill the gap. And this is actually true, so that whenever users are like water somehow, they fill the gap if they need some storage here or some communication left and right. And probably we were not set up to have all those tools corporate-wise ready. And therefore, yes, as I said, we're going to find corporate information everywhere these days due to the fact that we, as I said, probably weren't prepared. And yeah, this is a little bit funny, but it is the reality. The line between work and leisure is really blurring. So there is nothing anymore such as a hard perimeter, or you're sitting in the large castle where everything is safe and trusted. So the lines between work and leisure is blurring. And obviously, as I said before, that creates a risk. I recently did a scan in my home network here, and I had 40 network devices running an Android, most of them IoT devices running a Linux, an Android or whatever. Recently, my stove asked me, hey, what is the Wi-Fi password? And I said, hey, come on, I wanted to do chicken. I don't want to, it is as it is. But also, who can access your laptop? Are you going to access corporate data through your private device and stuff like this? Is something that is daily business at the moment, and as I said, it creates a lot of risk. When thinking about rebuilding, and this is as I said, the once we are closer to that light, but at the end of the tunnel, but need to think about it actually now. I think there are some quick wins. Respectively, there are some items we should consider short term or even immediately, and some things are pretty obvious, or most of them are pretty obviously. And we have also written a more extended kind of blog around that on our website. But one thing is obviously, hey, the returning devices are safe to use. And I think it is the best way to deal with that, assuming that any device that will return is kind of vulnerable or has been hacked. I guess with this assumption in mind, you're triggering the right actions on your hand. And I mean, there are various pieces to make that sure. One is, for example, to run network scans for unknown devices. I mean, NASA was hacked due to a Raspberry Pi that was unauthorized in their network, right? You want to make sure that you know what is hitting your network, and wherever possible, avoid personal laptops that you don't have under control, right? Or install or use your network access control wisely. Use your EDR or buy one if you don't have it, to really being able to gain full visibility, and also knowing what is happening on any of your devices. Yeah. Device control is the next piece, right? I mean, there's a set of things you need to make sure in order to make sure that the returning devices are safe once they go back into your office environment. The second piece is keep insecure software off your network. Also pretty obvious, but this has also a set of options you can do. Update the OSs and the software. Go and patch whatever needs to be patched and what was probably not patched because people were not running it into your LAN-based network. Inventory the software that's been used based on risk level while using probably your endpoint detection and response tool. Stuff like this in order to make sure that the software that is in your network is patched, is not vulnerable, and it's the software you are really keen to use. Yeah, and last piece, obviously, preparing processes and procedures. I mean, it starts with password resetting procedures, things like that, very basic stuff to make sure that the password that has probably been shared with half of the family, including grandpas and mothers-in-law, is kind of secure again and will be resetted. New employees that probably hit your company, that they are set up properly, people that you probably had to terminate remotely. I mean, it's sad, but it's a reality that these devices and that you have created procedures around that as well. And obviously, be ready for working from home. And I guess this is something very important also mid and long term. And I guess when I listened to the conversations today, I think that most topics haven't really changed due to COVID, but I think they have shifted in terms of priority. And one priority has to be in future, embrace remote working, and not only because of the next crisis, it's also about attraction and retention of employees. I mean, it's a cultural piece, and especially younger people want to have flexibility. They want to be in a flexible and open culture, and embracing remote working is key in that. And it has a gain, right? I mean, on average, 1.4 days per month, remote workers do work more. And this, I found this kind of funny. And people in the offices, 15% of them feel distracted by their boss. So I mean, you gain productivity, plus you're adding an open culture to your company. And as I said, we spoke to a lot of companies, a lot of conservative verticals as well, and they really open up for this way, adding more hoteling spaces rather than fixed desks, stuff like that. And I'm sure we're going to see and have to see this even more. Yeah, I mean, this is a topic for everybody, increased cloud adoption. And I saw this morning, from the Deutsche Bank CIO review, CIO roundup, I have it in front of me, number 8. And it's also saying that COVID will be a long-term boost to digitalization, not a surprise, and further catalyst the move to a public cloud migration. And we're going to see that. And it makes sense, especially when you're preparing a business continuity plan, moving existing applications and servers to the cloud, not forgetting about the security, obviously, but you need to reduce the dependency on local networks and make sure you adopt this in a secure manner. The same thing here, moving through one tunnel to your castle, if you will, and then moving from there towards the different sources and tools. You're limiting yourself. It's a poor choice for performance, and I'm sure we need to see a changed architecture of remote access as well that offers more flexibility towards those cloud resources. Re-architect collaboration, it's the same thing. We have seen companies that were saying, hey, no to video because the people had to use the on-premise collaboration tools that was hit in their castles, if you will. That's not the future, and that will no longer work, no matter whether it's COVID or it's another crisis, or even without a crisis, to keep business up and running, to be efficient and to be attractive for other employers. Last but not least, I mean, that's the business we are in. And the way I like to think about it is, rather than creating a castle and trying to access, let all the people, remote workers and whoever is working in your environment through that castle, is building micro castle on each endpoint, being able to create the perimeter on the endpoint, or let the endpoint be your perimeter while using smart and machine learning or AI-driven technologies for endpoint detection and response that are currently moving towards even XDRs, where the X stands for a lot of more resources rather than endpoints, adding also data from log files, data from IoT devices, and so on, and making sure that the communication and the process, the events your devices process are secure and can be kind of followed up. So a lot of thoughts. I mean, we could discuss that, I think, for about hours. I would like to finish with this picture. I want to say thank you, and I'm open for whatever questions. And we're going to see us in the panel discussion as well. So thanks a lot.